This event is a special event on the university calendar. It's the opportunity that we take to recognize the very best among us as a university family and to recognize those alumni that have brought distinction not only to themselves but to their families, to this university, and to our state and nation as well. We come together at this grand event each year to recognize the significant contributions that WKU alumni have made to their communities and indeed across the globe. WKU has a rich history, and there are nearly 100,000 WKU alumni spread across the globe. As we have seen from these distinguished alumni and those that you just were introduced to who have received this award in the past, their contributions are far-reaching and varied, cut across the disciplines of business and science and medicine and the arts and entertainment and education, philanthropy, public service, and so many more dimensions of our society. There is no higher honor that WKU can bestow on a hilltopper than induction into the Hall of Distinguished Alumni. And I know this is never an easy task for those who serve on the committee that makes these selections. So thank you to the Alumni Board for your significant efforts. As we continue the dramatic transformation of WKU into a leading American university with international reach, today's inductees provide even more evidence of what WKU graduates achieve at a very high level. Today, we honor the lives of three individuals who have had a profound impact on education, on business, and the arts, and the world of entertainment. It is my privilege to introduce today's honorees, and our Alumni Association President, Dale Augustine, will assist with the presentation of each inductee. Now, please find a clear view of the screens on either side of the room in the podium as we begin the induction of the 2011 class in WKU's Hall of Distinguished Alumni. We will start our recognition this afternoon with a very dear friend, Mr. Jerry Baker. Jerry Baker is a man whose impact and influence in this community has no equal. His successes are numerous, and his generosity is unmatched. He embodies the spirit of philanthropy and leadership. And I might also add that those of you who know Jerry know that he is the definition of the consummate gentleman. Many of you do indeed know Jerry well, and his substantial gifts to WKU are also well known, not because he wanted it that way. He prefers to keep a low profile. A businessman by trade, his achievements in business are more than enough to warrant induction into the Hall of Distinguished Alumni. But those who nominated Jerry and those of us who know him well didn't talk much of his work in the corporate world when it came to this recognition. His minister at the First Christian Church of Bowling Green said, "To many people, Jerry is known as that nice man who greets you each morning as he gives you a bulletin." He goes on to talk of Jerry's volunteer efforts and support for local ministries such as Meals Incorporated, and says of him, "Jerry has been a great example of humility and service." The Downing family, Dr. Mitzi Groom, Dr. David Lee, and Dr. Lauren Northison and Ivan Shevendecker all referenced the many endeavors that have been to the benefit of so many others across our community. Jerry's service and leadership on a number of local boards include the Kentucky Arts Council. His support for the arts, which has enriched the lives of those in smaller communities across our Commonwealth. And of course, his support for hundreds of students through the years who have studied at WKU because of the scholarships Jerry has provided. And seldom does a month or two go by that I don't learn of some new way in which Jerry has provided support to students pursuing their education at WKU. In 2009, Governor Steve Beshear recognized Jerry with the Milner Award, the state's most prestigious tribute for support of the arts. This award recognizes outstanding philanthropic, artistic, and other contributions to the arts and the role of the arts in the economy, the communities, and the culture of Kentucky. So today, the WKU family honors Jerry Baker, not just for what he has done for WKU, but for all that he has done to promote and support education, the arts, and our broader community, and most importantly, for the profound, lifelong impact his efforts have had on the lives of so many others. So now please direct your attention to the screens as we honor our first inductee, Mr. Jerry Baker.
A self-made man of quiet charm, Jerry E. Baker is devoted to the arts, education, and the underserved. A 1951 graduate of Bowling Green Business University, Baker's brand of disciplined hard work and focus took his Southern Welding Supply Company to the next level when it was acquired by Airgas in 1986. Baker served as chairman of Airgas Mid-America until 2010, where he forged his reputation as a world-class leader.
In 2010, Airgas was fighting off a hostile takeover battle, and it was one of the longest takeover battles or takeovers in history. And Saturday afternoon at 4:30, I get a call from Peter McCausland, the chairman of Airgas, at 4:30 on a Saturday afternoon, and we're fighting for our lives in this hostile takeover. And he asked me, he goes, "Do you think, Jerry, Forbes magazine wants to do an article about Airgas and this hostile takeover bid, and I would like for Jerry Baker to explain the core strategy of Airgas to Forbes magazine." And probably one of the greatest compliments, Peter, we have 15,000. Peter McCausland has 15,000 employees and one of the most successful CEOs in America, and he's needing a lifeline, and he calls Jerry Baker from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Airgas is now a $4 billion national company. While honing his business skills, Baker never took for granted the opportunities afforded him early in life.
He was not handed anything on a silver spoon, I assure you. He came to Western. He worked summers as a waiter. Still very handy at that. I've seen him serve table, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm an expert at this." And he trained himself and taught himself. And he was just innately kind, I think, and innately ambitious. But he's so much more than that. People think of Jerry as a highly successful businessman. Yes, he is. But he's a highly successful human being, and he's a patron of the arts.
I certainly wasn't aware of my love for art until I was fully grown and out of college and working. Maybe because I was never exposed to art very much growing up, either in school or in any other part of my life. So I didn't have an opportunity to make a judgment about it. It wasn't that I didn't like it, it just that I didn't know anything about it.
Baker began collecting art in the 60s. His current collection includes an eclectic body of work, but it's his support of and friendship with the internationally acclaimed artist Joe Downing, a brother to former WKU President Dero Downing, along with a love of nature that were springboards for the Joe Downing Museum and the Baker Arboretum, located on Baker's Bowling Green property.
I think we started traveling back in the 80s. We took a trip to the Lake Country in England with both our mothers. We had a wonderful trip visiting gardens and so forth, and of course I was interested in landscaping, so I would pick out the gardens and the arboretum and plan the trip around that. So I think that cultivated his interest in making the arboretum.
I didn't even have this property, I didn't have this much property. I lived in the house, but I didn't have as much property around it. When I started thinking of that, and then I realized that I did have enough property, and I could actually build a museum here, and if people come to see the Arboretum, they could also see the museum. It would give another reason for them to come, something else to see that might take their interest, besides plants and trees.
In the spring of 2006, Baker made what at the time was the single largest gift by an individual to WKU, including his home, art, and arboretum, valued at $15 million.
Today, WKU receives one of the greatest gifts ever bestowed in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Jerry, you are a modest man, but please accept the appreciation of your many friends for your vision and for your thoughtful generosity. Jerry Baker.
So I just thought the university has been here 100 years. Hopefully it'll be here another 100 years. And it has an art department, it has a horticulture department. It has departments and people that would actually be interested in running it and in managing it and seeing that it was here for the foreseeable future. And I just thought that was the best plan.
Baker has established scholarships in art, dance, and athletics. He serves on numerous WKU committees, including the Cupola and Cherry Societies and the WKU Alumni Association. He has served on the WKU Foundation Board of Trustees, and in 2001, he received an honorary doctorate from WKU. His community support includes the Phoenix Theater and Orchestra Kentucky, to name a few. In 2009, he received the Milner Award for his contributions to the arts in Kentucky.
It puzzles me that anyone so disciplined is so quiet about it. I don't think he's really shy. I think he's modest and humble. And, you know, we've given him awards and he's deserved every one of them, we Western, I mean. But I think it embarrasses him a little bit. So I think it's sort of a bit of a, you know, I don't want to toot my own horn, but if you're going to be kind enough and generous enough to do it for me, if you're a little shy, but I'll accept it. And I think that's very charming.
I have everything I want. I live very comfortably. I'm very happy. It just makes sense to me. You're supposed to help other people with the rest of it.
2011 Hall of Distinguished Alumni inductee Jerry E. Baker.
Accepting on behalf of Jerry Baker is Bob Otto Hilliard. But first, let's recognize Jerry Baker. Jerry?
Good afternoon. I'm very honored to give Jerry's acceptance speech for his induction into the Hall of Distinguished Alumni. Jerry and I decided to focus on his personal history and feelings about Western Kentucky University and share that with you today. In 1951, of course, he graduated from the Bowling Green Business University, and when Jerry and I were discussing, I said, "You sure you want to use dates and years?" And Jerry said, "Well, if they can't figure out I'm barely over 80 years old, they've got more problems than I do." In 1954, after serving in the United States Air Force, Jerry returned to Elizabethtown, Kentucky to become partners with his father in an industrial gas welding supply distributor called Southern Welding Supply. Jerry's father had the capital to finance the entire purchase. However, he encouraged or told Jerry to take a loan out from the bank to finance his portion of the business, which is really a true partner. At that time, Jerry's father was the salesman, his mother was the bookkeeper, and Jerry drove a truck delivering 200-pound steel industrial gas cylinders. Back then, they didn't have lift gates. There was no air conditioning. He delivered industrial gas cylinders and welding supplies over an 18-county area in south central Kentucky. In 1956, due to economic and industrial growth opportunities, Jerry determined that Bowling Green, Kentucky was the best town to open a new store for Southern Welding Supply. When Jerry moved to Bowling Green in 1956, one of the first things he did, he went to the post office to get a P.O. box. And the postal master came back and said, "Mr. Jerry Baker, you're a very lucky man. You're going to have an exciting future in Bowling Green, Kentucky. You've got P.O. Box 1. And Jerry goes, why do I get number 1? And the man replied, well, there's 2 ways. The boxes change. You either move or you die. And the guy died 2 weeks ago. So I'd like for you, Jerry's birthday is March 18th. So I'd like everyone in the room next year to send him a birthday card, and let's blow up P.O. Box 1. In 1967, after 11 years of rapid growth, Jerry bought his father's half of the business and built a new facility on Industrial Drive here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And his mother stayed on as a bookkeeper until 1974. In 1985, the hot water heater quit working at Southern Welding Supply on Industrial Drive. In 1986, Jerry asked me to go to lunch. I've been associated with Jerry for over 40 years, and it was the first time I'd ever seen him have a drink of alcohol at lunch. And I thought, what's up? He says, well, I've decided to sell a business. I sold it to a Philadelphia lawyer named Peter McCausland, and he gave me an offer